Welcome to another episode of In Your Neighborhood. I'm Bill Talia, realtor with Baird & Warner. Today I'm in the village of Long Grove, Illinois, beautiful village, and we're discussing mortgages, mortgage information with mortgage specialist Mark Brennan with Draper & Kramer. Welcome to another episode of In Your Neighborhood. I'm Bill Talia, Mark Brennan with Draper & Kramer, mortgage specialist. We're in Long Grove, the Long Grove Coffee Company, fantastic place. And today we're going to be discussing important tips on when you are applying for a mortgage. Mark, how are you?
I am wonderful, Bill.
I appreciate you bringing us. How's your coffee?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Mark was with us our first episode of In Your Neighborhood, and I really appreciate your time. Let's get into it, Mark.
Sure.
The do's and the don'ts of when you're applying for a mortgage. First, let's discuss the do's. What should we do when applying for a mortgage?
Yeah, so these are going to be some tips.
Yeah.
Some of it might sound common sense, but certainly, like with anything, there's tricks of the trade. And as far as things to do, I always recommend have access to your pay stubs, your bank statements. Your lender is going to do a thorough investigation of income, make sure it's qualifiable, cash, we need to know where all the money is coming from in a transaction, and other financial documents. Just love this coffee. So, and kind of going hand in hand with that, always recommend if there's going to be any sort of gift-related activity for your down payment.
Parents.
Gift meaning
family.
Parents, direct family members. We have to source where that money's coming from, so we want to be sure that we're getting a gift letter.
Right.
And we know about it. Not all programs allow that.
Sure.
If there's any sort of employment change, it happens. Sometimes people switch positions. Notify your loan officer. It could have an impact if, let's say, you're moving from a self-employed type position to a regular employed type position, or vice versa.
Right.
I mean, that can have a big impact on your
A
overall
big impact,
approval.
yeah.
And then other things. Make timely payments. I know it sounds silly. We just had the overall piece on credit, but
Right.
make sure that you pay things on time. Don't stop paying your credit or paying your bills.
Mortgage.
That's going to have
Don't pay
your mortgage.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll negatively impact your credit. We do a soft credit pull 8 business days before closing just to look at balances. So any major purchases, anything on the horizon, talk to your loan officer. The more they know, the better they can help.
And a lot of this, and from the do's that one should do, are in a going back to our first ever episode of the pre-approval, right? All this information comes into play when you're getting your pre-approval.
Correct.
So it's important to have those do's, done right, so that pre-approval comes through as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, agree.
So we have a do list. We also have a don't list when you're applying for a mortgage. So let's touch on some of those as well.
We are not that big. So Kim just emailed us.
Okay, things not to do. And I'll just kind of go through the list. Some of these are kind of funny. We talked about the changing jobs. Don't quit your job. If you become self-employed, it can negatively impact the qualifying income we use. So let your lender know before something like that comes on the horizon. Major purchases. New vehicle. Don't go out and buy that car just because your loan's conditionally approved.
Yeah.
We're still going to do that soft credit pull. We're going to pick up on that credit inquiry. So it doesn't mean you can't buy a car. Have the discussion with your lender before you do it, though,
Right.
to see what the impact of that would be.
Sure.
Using credit cards excessively. When you get that initial conditional approval, it doesn't mean you can run and max out all your credit cards.
Right.
We're going to pick up on those limit increases. And this is kind of a silly one, but don't spend the down payment. Meaning if we verified we need to have X amount of dollars for closing, it doesn't mean go out and spend it.
Yeah, you need that.
We verified it, you're going to need that for your down payment.
Keep it.
So accounts sound silly, but don't do that. Omitting debts as I rapid fire through this, but if there's any sort of debts that your lender may not have identified in the loan application, bring it to his or her attention.
Right.
There are things that during the process we're probably going to find out about them, and if it's material in that it might send your debt threshold or debt ratios over the threshold,
Right.
Better to know up front so we can plan
Yeah.
accordingly.
Absolutely.
Don't have your credit unnecessarily pulled. And any sort of credit inquiry that we pick up on, we have to investigate and determine whether or not a new credit card's been opened. If it is, we have to account for whatever that future payment will be.
Right.
We'll pick up on it, call it 10 days before closing, which doesn't really give us a lot of time to correct things.
There's one thing I wanted to, if I may, a lot of times when individuals are applying for a mortgage, they may have a tendency of moving funds from one account to another just because it's probably something they do normally, especially with direct deposits or whatnot. What is your opinion about that? Is that on a don't do list?
Given that we have to identify where all the money in a transaction is coming from,
Yeah.
if we see any sort of deposits, and the rule is any non-payroll direct deposit that's greater than 50% of our qualifying gross monthly income, we have to source where it comes from. So in layman's terms, if you make 10 grand a month and there's any sort of transfer or deposit greater than 5,000, we have to document where it came from. And if it's not from a qualifying source, we have to back that out, meaning it's money that we can't account for in money used for closing. So, and again, it's kind of one of those where the underlying theme is talk to your lender, let them know what you're doing before you do it, and if it's something that could be problematic, it's something that can be nipped in the bud. But that's a great question.
How about, thank you, how about a co-signing during that mortgage process? If the person that's trying to obtain a mortgage co-signs for another person that's trying to obtain maybe a vehicle or mortgage themselves, is that a don't do list? I'm assuming that would be a don't do list.
Yeah, it's remember that when you are co-signing, you're effectively allowing your credit to be used to help somebody else secure debt on whether it be a car, student loan, whatever it may be.
Right.
And it's something to where we have to account for whatever that future payment would be. So even though it may seem harmless, it is going to have an impact on your credit worthiness.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, those are the do's and don'ts. That's a lot of information, I know. But as always, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you want to discuss, applying for a mortgage, we're the mortgage specialist at Draper and Kramer. His information is on the screen as well. So reach out with your questions and whatnot. But this is a fantastic coffee shop. Mark. It was Mark's recommendation. We're in Long Grove at the original coffee company, actually, and it's a fantastic spot. Coffee's great. Make sure you also come out to Long Grove and try their coffee. Mark, I appreciate your time as always, and your knowledge and your input.
Welcome.
Today we're in Long Grove. Tomorrow I may be in your neighborhood. Please don't forget to subscribe. I appreciate you watching. Have a blessed day. Mark, any last words?
Have a wonderful day. Communication is key. We'll talk soon.
Always. All right. Enjoy. I'm happy. Mama Bear. All right. Cheers, Mark.
Cheers.